Hey, what's happening, guys? Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode as we do return to the My Favorite LJN tournament. We are on round 1, part 15. Now, I haven't been buying anything off of eBay or Mercari recently, so I don't have any new incoming action figures, no reviews or anything like that. So, in all honesty, unless I decide to start cutting in a couple times a week and do magazine reviews, we could technically start doing tournament videos on a daily basis, but like I said, generally I want to do at least 3 videos in a row of the tournament and then kind of kick in with something else outside of the tournament just to kind of keep this video fresh so it doesn't become redundant and it become something boring for a lot of the viewers. But if I want to keep with the dailies and if I don't have anything else, I might have no choice but to do the tournament videos. But I enjoy making them, and like I said, when I post the videos, I'll become a fan. I enjoy watching them on the big screen, so it works for me. Hopefully you guys are okay with that as well. But with that being said, guys, no new updates, nothing else really happening in the upcoming week outside of tournament videos. I think, yeah, I really should dive into the magazines again. I finally started doing those, and then I stopped, and that's not good. All right, first matchup today is going to feature Junkyard. I dropped something. It's the Jim Neidhart figure. That's Junkyard Dog body pose, and he will square off against, well, that's an easy match, Rick Rude. Next matchup is going to feature another no name. I really hope these blanks were just nothing. Alright, so this one, Blue Referee. Blue Referee squares off against the blue and red Andre. See, matches like that, it's like, it hurts because I love matches like that. They're so freaking good. But they should be like round 4, round 5 matchups. They should not be round 1 matchups. That's what kills it. Andre number 2 purple. The heck is Andre number 2 purple? Okay, I gotcha. I know what that is. Man, these last couple of videos have been very Andre heavy. That sucks. This is a bad matchup. Hillbilly Gem versus Andre number 2 purple. Not a bad matchup because it's bad. It's a bad matchup because it's difficult. Hillbilly Gem just cannot catch a freaking break. Jake Roberts squares off against... Is that RJ? Nope, that's RT. So, Jake Roberts squares off against Mr. Perfect from Random Treasures. Alright, our 8 figures have been drawn. And I will be back in a split second. Alright, folks. Figures have been pulled. And I didn't really set them aside. I just dropped them in the pile here. That's fine. First matchup is going to feature Jim Neidhart as he squares off against Rick Rude. And we will start off with the Jim Neidhart figure. So, if you guys gotten the opportunity to check out Mike Steyer's on eBay, you will be able to see a lot of his processes in customizing a lot of these figures. And it's funny that just a couple of videos ago we were looking at the really bad Owen Hart, and one of my least favorite figures ever. And I'm sorry, Mike, but that one from the waist down, fantastic work, but from the head was just, it butchers the figure. But then you get to Jim Neidhart. The Jim Neidhart figure could potentially be one of the greatest figures ever made. And it's so odd that such a bad figure could become from the same man that produced such an elite figure. This is not a good figure. This is not a great figure. This is an absolute elite figure. And when you look at this, taking Junkyard Dog, okay, I've always said Junkyard Dog fighting pose is fantastic. The one downside I've always had about Junkyard Dog was that the grip of the figure was never that great. But eliminate all that. It looks great. I think Junkyard Dog has a nice thickness, or I don't want to say flabbiness to it, that kind of fits Jim Neidhart. Because when you look at LJN Jim Neidhart, it's very slimmed down. And I've never known Jim Neidhart to be a skinny guy or a thinner guy. So I think Junkyard Dog fits him a little bit better, obviously, body type wise. And the way that the skin is painted, you would think that this was always the authentic skin. You would never know that this was not an original. Like that this was a dark skinned figure at one point. So freaking well done. Yeah, you do see kind of up here where they start blending the neck and the skin to kind of where they cut off the head and put on the Jim Neidhart head. But, I mean, unless you're like, you got to be like staring at it like so, right? If I'm looking at it like this, I don't really notice it. Of course, my eyes suck, but still, if I'm looking at it from like, yeah, and I'm like, I got to be like, yeah. So, this figure, I think I paid about $100 or 90. I think I paid like $90 for the pair between Owen and Jim. And I'm like, look, Mike, I'll give you $60 for Jim Neidhart. I really want this figure. I saw this figure on your YouTube way back when, and I've always wanted this figure. And kind of seeing it on your eBay, I'm like, hell yeah, I want that figure. I will pay up for that figure. I have absolutely zero interest in your Owen Hart figure. To me, I didn't tell him this, but I'm like, look, that figure was just no bueno. But after a while, I'm like, you know what, screw it. I'll shell up the extra. If I'm paying $60 for one, I might as well pay an extra $30 and buy them both. But, and with the color scheme of the Hart Foundation, or the new Hart Foundation, it was better to have them as a tag team duel anyways. So, but such a great figure, and it's one of those things where I'm glad that a good figure is getting an opportunity to move forward to the next round, because let's be honest, Jim Neidhart is not losing to Rick Rude. Unlike many people out there, I'm kind of like a little bit different cat in regards to that. I actually like the Rick Rude figure. It's not a playable figure, and for the longest time, I actually said that this was the worst LJN figure ever. All in all, I might still gravitate to that opinion that it is the worst LJN, but when I talk about worst LJN figures, you never hear me say Rick Rude. I think it has something to do with the fact that I really like the color scheme of the pants. It's very 1980s, and I don't know if this will get me struck by YouTube, but for a lack of a better explanation, kind of looking at these are very 1980s porn pants. I don't know how else to describe them. But shoot, man. Oh, let's be honest, man. All you guys freaking watch those damn videos. You kind of turn on the damn TV and you got the little white lines going through, and like, you're like, what the hell's happening? Think American Pie. That's exactly how you were like 6 years old, trying to get the Spice Channel or whatever. It's funny, American Pie, just kind of bringing that up. It's funny how realistic that is to childhood, or to your growing up. That's like it's not like just some random movie that somebody script. No, that thing is so authentic, man. And Jason Biggs. I feel for Jason Biggs, because I feel like I myself would do some stupid stuff like that. Not the pie thing. Never the pie thing. But I don't know. I just feel like he would do some stupid crap. But anyways, back to the figures. Like I said, I like the Rick Rude figure. When I talk about bad figures, I talk about Snuka. I talk about Sheik. I talk about Bob Orton. Sometimes I'll say Jake Roberts, who is actually in this video. But if it wasn't for the arms, this had the potential to be such a great figure. Sometimes you want the guaranteed figures to move forward, definitely, but like you want the matchups to be a little bit more evenly distributed. I really think that this is really like the only type of matchup. I think that everything else is going to be relatively difficult to choose. Next one we said was Andre, and he squares off against, looks like blue referee. I keep dropping these darn tags. So that was, which Andre? Blue and red Andre. So in the last video, we looked at the supersized black strap Andre the Giant from the Raider Nation and what was made by artist Kenny Lester. In this video, we've got the other Andre the Giant that I actually talked about in that exact video. And again, Kenny Lester, you'll always see his KL on the bottom of the feet. If you do have any Kenny Lester figures on hand and you're willing to sell, I would actually like to build up an even larger collection of his figures. I haven't been able to buy up all of his figures, but man, I kind of feel like he's one of those artists who I really enjoy. So, and this is so freaking tough because I'm gonna start with the referee. When I did the my favorite manager tournament, that manager tournament included everybody from managers to referees to executives to announcers. So it was a very broad spectrum. Basically all these different job titles fell under the umbrella of referee, right? So I honestly thought that the referee, if not the original blue shirt referee, I thought maybe Random Treasure's pink shirt referee, which I actually liked the most, would have won that tournament. And I was actually very surprised, considering I had 4 different referees and none of them won. It just so happened they went against superior figures, but yeah, the referee was probably gun to the head. Who do I think would have won? I think referee would have been my answer, followed by maybe Freddie Blassie, followed by Bobby Heenan, and of course the Bobby Heenan Elf was the winner. This was such a good figure, and I've always said if you are a huge Terry Funk action figure fan and you love the LJN Terry Funk, you would love the referee. And I've always said if you had a referee, you don't have to use him as a referee. Reffing. Is that a word? Reffing a match. Refereeing a match. You could use the referee as like a gimmick, and he is the referee. You make him an actual wrestler. It's got relatively the same pose as Terry Funk, so if you enjoyed using that figure, you would enjoy this. It's a good looking figure and great playability to it. Yeah, I really enjoy the referees. I hate having referees square off against guys like this because, damn, I want to see I enjoy talking about these guys. I want to see them go multiple rounds. I want to see referees do very well in these tournaments. You guys know my affection for Andre the Giant, and particularly the Andre the Giant action figures. Whenever I talk about like my top 10 list, I always say Big John Studd number 1, right? And then I say Hulk Hogan number 2. Andre the Giant number 3, Kamal number 4. Theoretically, I always put Andre the Giant Series 1 at number 3. But then later on, I might say, okay, Andre the Giant Series 6 because of design as 3A. Or Series 2 as 3B, and then Series 1 as 3C. But Series 1 really is the premier figure as far as playability goes. So this figure, they did such a fantastic job. This is a Series 2 figure. I was thinking that this was a Series 1, but it's not. It's a Series 2. And you can tell by the positioning of the arms. And because Series 1, the arm I believe it's the, is it the left arm? I believe it's the left arm just shows out just a little bit further than the Series 2/Series 6 figure. But they did obviously upgrade the head, so it gave you like that late 70s, early 80s Andre the Giant, and a more authentic look than your original LJN Series 1. And Kenny does such great work that when you look at the new head mold, you don't see any separation. Like, you don't see it painted where you think, okay, this could be, where somebody chopped off the head and put a new head on there. It really was fantastic work. And when I talked in the last video that there were 2 Andres that I saw and I desperately wanted, and I didn't want to lose out on them, but they were like expensive, right? They were, $125. Maybe he came down to like 110, 85. I didn't want to pay that type of money, but I ended up coming out of pocket. I ended up buying both of them. I don't know if I bought them together or if I bought them on separate days, but I think I bought them separately. Like maybe I bought this, maybe a few days later I bought the other one, for example, but this is so well done. In fact, kind of looking at this, now that I'm looking at this like up close and personal, and I can't believe I've never actually given it as much of a thorough look-see as I'm doing right now, but this could be a legitimate, serious #1 contender for the winner of this tournament. I thought this figure is one of those figures that could, just like any other Andre figure, could go very far in the tournament. Now I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the head, I'm looking at the colors. Nothing is fading or cracking or anything like that. Freaking Andre the Giant could potentially be my winner. I like the pose better than Bruiser Brody, so that gives it a huge bonus. I think the head is more realistic than Bruiser Brody, so right now, yeah, if you were to ask me this or Bruiser Brody, who's already a 2-time champion, that would be a tough sell. I don't know. For me, it's tough losing him, but I got to put down the referee. I think this is just a far superior figure. Again, Kenny did absolute amazing work on this one. And you can't just go through Kenny Lester directly. At least I don't think so. I mean, I never have. I always have to go through Justin on his site, the Raider Nation on eBay. But if you reach out to Justin, be like, hey man, I want to get some custom figures done. I'm sure you could reach out to Kenny and you guys could probably requisition some pieces. But it is going to probably cost you. You're probably looking at anywhere between $85 to $125 for a figure. So, but I'm pretty sure as a customizer and artist that he could probably make a figure to your specifications. Next matchup is going to feature Andre #2 Purple as he goes up against Hillbilly Gem. Like I said, man, a lot of Andre the Giant figures in these last 2 videos. So we'll go back to Hillbilly. If Hillbilly Gem loses this figure, this might be the last time we ever see him in a tournament. Why? And I'll explain. So, the first 2 times I did this tournament, I didn't really covet Hillbilly Gem as much as I do nowadays. Nowadays, I think it's a phenomenal figure. Playability-wise, it's a fine play pose, enjoyable. Put this against, dang it. I keep blowing off my freaking little tags with the names on them. I put them against King Kong Bundy, and it's so much fun. So, I kind of look at the figure. The first time. Now, back in the day, all I had was like my DVD shelves, and I had all the figures, not like this, but they were kind of like sitting on the shelves like so, right? And so, Series 1 were like this, behind each other, then Series 2, so on. And at the time, I had like if I had a custom of like Hercules, it doesn't matter if it had the same body type or not, custom Hercules sat behind the original Hercules. custom Randy Savage sat behind original Randy Savage, etc. So in the very first tournament, I had, at least for the first series, when I got to Series 2, it didn't really matter anymore, but figures like Jimmy Snuka, Hillbilly Gem, Roddy Piper, the Iron Sheik. So those particular figures, yeah, I put them against Stud and Andre and Hogan and Nikolai Volkov and Junkyard Dog. I put them against those guys because I knew that they would beat them in the matchup, and that way I could say the best figures move forward, guaranteed. It wouldn't be Roddy Piper versus Iron Sheik, and then, one of the bad figures move on. Second time, I kind of did the same thing. So, Hillbilly Gem has never had an easy run. He's always squared off against Big John Studd in my first 2 tournaments in the first round. And now going up against freaking Andre the Giant here, it doesn't get any easier. They're essentially the same figure for the most part, right? Fighting pose are roughly the same. The only difference I put on this one is that at least Hillbilly Gem is I now have a greater affection for this figure, and there's so many figures from Andre in this tournament. Hell, the one I just put down is a Series 2 repaint, and I covet that one more than this one. This one will not defeat the one I just put down. I think anyone that has heard me talk already can tell that would not happen. So I can do another situation where I put a figure that I feel like deserves to move on to the next round, simply because Andre would not defeat himself. I mean, this one was done adequately. Andre the Giant, he's had a lot of different colors. Blue, obviously, one of his more famous colors. Yellow, especially in New Japan. I call it purple or maroon trunks. He's also wore like very bright red trunks. So he's had a multitude of colors he's worn over the years. To me, Andre in black strap, that right there is the black singlet. That's always my Andre that I gravitate towards. If I eliminate him now, if I do decide, I've talked about it before, because of the sheer quantity of figures that I have nowadays, I feel like this is the last time that I do a tournament of this size. So if I do decide to come back next year and make a year 4 or a my favorite LJN tournament revisit part 4 or what have you, it's gonna be dumbed down to like 128 figures, because I could dumb that down from 128 to 64 to 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1, right? The numbers break down very evenly. Figures like Hillbilly Gem, if he loses here, I could say, okay, Hillbilly Gem, 3 tournaments, 3 first round eliminations. He does not deserve to be in the next tournament because he literally does not have a shot at winning. When realistically, that's not true. It's a solid figure. Potential is there to go multiple rounds. Potential is there, but potential doesn't always push you forward. I gotta go with Andre. Regardless of how I feel about him challenging the other figures. Here's the thing. That Andre gets eliminated next round, let's say. You still got this one in competition. Maybe this one wins the tournament then. Andre the Giant is definitely a strong candidate. Do I value this one more than the Santa Claus variant that I have in this tournament? And I don't think so. I think I really enjoy that Santa Claus version. It's tough to put this one down. I actually, of all the figures in this tournament, for whatever reason, this is like one of the figures I was really looking forward to talking about. Like I said, I always had, I always seemed to like pin him and King Kong Bundy together. And maybe that's just like old memories stuck in the back of my head that I just couldn't capture. Because I've talked about him doing the superstars where he's like sitting around the round table with like Vince McMahon and other folks, usually guys like Bobby Heenan, for example. I remember him doing that. I remember him battling King Kong Bundy in like a little people turn matchup. So up until the time that I actually saw those videos, I would never have remembered that. But it's like a light bulb. As soon as I see them, I'm like, heck yeah, I remember that so vividly now. This was tough. Last matchup is going to feature Jake Roberts as he does battle against Random Treasures, Mr. Perfect. We'll start with Mr. Perfect. Every time I look at this figure, I'm kind of mad at Random Treasures. Not because of this figure. Not exactly because of this particular figure. I'm mad at Random Treasures because they have the capabilities, they have the design to make Scott Steiner, yet they still have not done so. What are you waiting? I'm just being a smartass. No, but ever since they started doing the Galoob 2-ups, every time I look back and I look at this figure, I'm like, come on, you basically, you already have Scott Steiner. That's, Mr. Perfect is Scott Steiner. In fact, I think the hair might actually be identical to the back of the Galoob Scott Steiner, or very close to it. So, fighting pose, the singlet, you have him. He's right here. All you gotta do is alter the face a little bit, and bam, you're good to go. But I'm sure you gotta design like a whole new head mold or something. But that'll sell. That'll sell, and I think that'll sell really well. I'm pretty sure all the Galoob 2-ups sell pretty darn well. I'm pretty sure that the Galoob 2-ups probably sell, if not better, than just as good as than probably 75. My opinion. I don't know. I don't know the numbers. I'm not the accountant at Random Treasures, so I'm not exactly sitting behind a desk and crunching numbers, but I would assume that they sell about as 75% as well of about 75% of stock. So you can come out with the Steiner brothers at any point, I think, and they would sell in a heartbeat. So I'm still waiting on a lot of these Series 1 figures to be completed because I'm eager to start getting the Series 2 UK exclusives in. Yeah, I really want that freaking El Gigante. Terrible play pose, but aesthetically, it's a fantastic looking figure, right? The Freebirds, as fantastic. I would love to have that. The robed Lex Luger, even the Sting robed, those are gonna be killer pieces. At this rate, if she's still considering doing like all of Series 1 first, it's probably gonna be a number of years before we see all of those figures come out. I hope not, but I'm sure that she's got a lot of other items on the roster that she would like to complete on top of Galoob 2-ups. But yeah, man, I think the Galoob 2-ups should be like a top priority because I feel like these are the things that would most definitely sell in a heartbeat. If she needs 10 sales to make up for the rubber, or to make up for the prototype or the mold of the figure, I mean, she should be able to easily double that within a week or two. So, Scott Steiner, excuse me, Mr. Perfect. In the early, I've made probably 2 at least, maybe 3. I think two different videos of Ram Treasures of my top favorite Ram Treasure figures. At one point, I think there were like 20 or 30 figures, and then the last one I think was like probably 40. I don't remember how the number was, but I'm gonna say 40 figures. The last one I did, And no, even that doesn't sound right. Because I think the video was about 50 minutes long or an hour long, and 40 figures, there's no way in heck I would have been able to go through 40 figures in an hour. But Mr. Perfect, he's usually somewhere near the top, but just not in like the top 10. He's like usually, I would say, in the top 15. So I think Scott Steiner, when I look at this, obviously Scott Steiner Galoob, which is not a great figure, but it's a figure I had as a kid, and it's something I used repetitiously, because among the Galoob figures, it's definitely one of the better ones. The rubber is better than what you got from Bob Backlund, but I think it still was relatively the same. Not the thickest rubber. So I think the rubber is what brings it down some, but the look is still quality. The skin is okay. It's not bad. Aesthetically, it's a fantastic look. And I think if it wasn't for the pose, this could be a top 10 Ram Treasures exclusive best figure. But nowadays, because of so many awesome new additions, like adding Dusty Rhodes and Jerry Lawler, and adding who else did they add? Adding the Rockers, for example, who I think could possibly crack the top 10. Adding Legion of Doom with Spikes, for example. So maybe he falls further back down to like 20. Still fantastic, no doubt. Does he beat Jake Roberts? Jake Roberts, good guy, bad guy, don't matter. I always liked Jake Roberts. And his Hasbro figure is one of the oldest figures that I could actually remember having as a kid. My buddy Kirk and I were talking the other day, and we were kind of talking about figures that we remember having as kids or remember seeing in stores. At some point, I might do a video where I kind of like look at all the different Hasbros, Galoobs, and other random figures that I utilized as playable wrestling figures back in the day. I think that might be a fun video. I think back in like December 2023, January 2023, somewhere on that time frame, I don't remember. I kind of showed off a group of figures that I had that were utilized as wrestling figures, but they were non-wrestling playable figures, like Panthro from Thundercats, or like the Werewolf, or the football player from Ghostbusters, for example. So guys like that, yeah, they would be included in that list of Hasbros and Gloops that I had. This figure makes me mad. He really makes me mad. And I understand you're supposed to display the freaking snake in his hands, and a lot of these poses are based on the usage or display of the actual accessory. But he is extra small, extra thin, and his play pose is trash. Closed fist, would it make much of a difference? I don't think so. Is it still a playable figure? Could you get a lot of use out of this? Absolutely. You could get a lot of use, probably have a lot of storylines if that's what you were doing. It's just not an enjoyable figure for me. In fact, if I went back today, there are figures like Ken Patera, which I think I had on my list at number 10, worst LJN. I love Ken Patera LJN. I think it's a fantastic figure. I think when I originally put him on my list at number 10, it was because I could not fathom any other figures of putting on that list. And I just selected him because of pose. I think if Ricky Steamboat barely missed being in the top 10, I think freaking Jake Roberts could be another one of those characters that could just miss being in the top 10 and could potentially be on my top 10 if I remove guys like Ken Patera off of that list. So I think this matchup is pretty much a wash. I like the accessory. Nowhere near as good as the Hasbro accessory. In fact, Jake Roberts is one of those characters that, even though I don't like Mattel Elites, sometimes I will go out and buy random Jake Robert figures just for the sake of having the snake accessory, because I think those accessories are like always going to be valuable. even if you plan on taking them out of the package and putting them putting them on random figures. Like if you take a snake out of like Jack Specific Classic Superstars and putting them on one of your LJNs customs or something, that can increase the value of your figure or whatnot. So definitely one of Ryan Charger's best figures in Mr. Perfect, and one of LJN's worst in Jake Roberts. This was an absolute no-brainer for me, and Jake Roberts, this is another one of those figures I talk about. I got both variants where he has the snake coming down his leg, and the other variant where there's no purple snake. It's just plain green pants. So that's pretty awesome to have both of those variants in as well. So this was to me was a wash. Well, guys, that does end this video. Hopefully it was enjoyable as always, and trying to think if there's any videos. Right now I don't have any other videos planned. No other reviews or anything that I have doing. I haven't purchased anything recently, so I don't have anything, any new pickups to talk about. If I do want to decide to kind of cut in the middle every 3 episodes as normal, I'll either do multiple videos of the magazines, or maybe throw in one of those little horror videos I've been talking about. You know, the don't watch alone or don't watch at night or whatever you want to call it type of videos. Which is just basically a bunch of clips, a bunch of TikTok and YouTube horror clips, ghost stories or what have you. I'll either throw one of those in there, one of those compilations, or I don't know, maybe I'll do a kind of topic what I just mentioned where we reflect on childhood playability. What action figures did we have as kids? Something like that might be fun. I don't know. Not every video has to be wrestling or collection related, so that's why I do that's why I do enjoy adding new content that's not that's not related to collections. It just makes the channel more fun, more unique. Get to hit on a bunch of different topics, so yeah, that's it for now, guys. Not much more to talk about. So thanks for watching, and until next time, goodbye, everybody.